going on, Forge Nation? We are back in the Disneyland for car enthusiasts, MagnaFlow, with our boy Rich.
How you doing, sir?
Good to see you.
Yep.
First impressions of Kratos, our Jeep Wrangler 392 Rubicon. What are your thoughts? What does it need? What do we need to do from here on out?
Well, you know, I'm a Jeep enthusiast myself. I didn't get a chance to get a 392, but I mean, you pretty much got everything here that you're looking for. You've got the bigger tire combo, you've got wheels and aesthetics put in here, you've got premium suspension parts, so the only thing you're missing is we got that 392 there, and we want to make it sound like a 392.
Absolutely. 6.4 liter HEMI underneath the hood, but right now we have stock exhaust, and that's a no-no. What's cool about the 392 is you have the sport mode, you have the ability to toggle it from quiet to loud, but we want that loud to be a little bit louder. We want those undertones to come through, and we want the performance of a MagnaFlow exhaust. So let's take a look at this stock exhaust. Tell me what Jeep did wrong. Throw them under the bus. And then
well, you know, the one thing about Jeep is they did do something very right, which was they listened to the fact that they're putting a HEMI under the hood, and we need it to sound like that. And they did everything they can in a stock configuration to try to make that person happy. But we all know, if you're putting a 392 in there,
more power,
customer wants more power, more sound, and we do it all.
I love it. All right, let's put this thing up. Let's take a look at it, get the pieces out, and we'll break it down. I'm excited for this one. Let's be right. Let's go.
All right.
We are underneath the hood of Kratos, and the first thing that we're seeing with this stock exhaust system, where are some things that have changed and what you guys are doing differently in MagnaFlow?
Well, we start right here behind the cats. There's obviously a Y pipe that you have to consider, and it's a much bigger diameter. You can see they've even had to ovalize it and put a special guard on it because it does hang lower than even any of the other Jeeps had their exhaust set.
Yep.
But you have 3-inch pipe that comes to the collection point. If you notice, it actually necks down. It goes down to a smaller diameter at the collector, which this is not a true X pipe in sorts, but it is a balance tube. So they did try to make sure you had that sound because, again, people love and recognize this motor from everything they've done in the Charger and Challenger, but there's a really big problem with that. There's no way to keep symmetry because you got this gas tank on the side. So since they do have to cross over on the one side, the balance tube has to act more to balance pressure waves from this big crossover change. And we've had to change that back to a standard X pipe. So you'll see we replace their kind of crossover to our true X. We also go and keep it at 3 inches. We want the engine to breathe better all the time. So we don't have the reduction. And then we pass through the first factory kind of silencer or muffler, and it's kind of a resonator. And as you can see, it's a smaller portion of the exhaust system compared to the very large muffler at the back. And for our system, we're going to move the primary mufflers and the resonators into this position so that the rear muffler is really only there to help control the last bit of sound. So you have a nice differentiation of the quieter mode and then, of course, the kind of open mode that we have. But 3-inch pipe all the way through, manual vent all the way through. And we do change up a little bit here. And we are considerate to the fact that this is a Jeep.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we still keep everything nice and high tucked.
It makes sense. And then if you're installing any type of aftermarket exhaust, should we still be thinking about providing more skid plates here, or where do skid plates normally come in to protect all the beautiful hardware we're putting on?
So in any Jeep, if you're really going to take these off-road, the thing that you risk, of course, is putting damage into it. And the factory does the minimal approach. You want to cover your T-case, and like up here with this crossover pipe, you've got this one little piece, but it doesn't help over here and over here. And there's a lot of companies out there that make parts. Particularly, we worked with Artec. I think you guys are familiar with them too. And
we got Artec on inner and front and inner fenders on this guy right now.
And we actually worked with them on our design, gave them all of our CAD drawings, so all the reverse engineering stuff that you see us do on OEM parts, we collect that data, and then we create the same data for all of our parts. So they've never been to our facility yet. We've transmitted the data, and we were able to collaborate so that when they make their belly pan, it's 100% going to fit both of our systems. Our rock crawler, which doesn't have the rear muffler and doesn't have the same on-off functionality for the sound, but it does have the ability to make our Street Series, which is kind of our beauty piece that gets there. And for the sound and now protection with the Artec system, you don't have to worry about damaging your rear muffler.
I love that. I mean, some famous YouTubers, Trail Recon, Marco, those guys all run the 392 Street Series, and they bang that up because they ride those Jeeps hard. Now with that cover, it's going to be much better.
Yeah, and I think Brad was able to reach out to him too, because he was one of the first people up there, because he was like, I love the sound, I love the tips. He goes, but can I get a little bit more protection? So it's great to be able to work with them and figure out a solution.
You're spending thousands of dollars on all these performance upgrades. You got to protect it.
Yep.
And it's a small price to pay. All right, so in the back here, where you guys did, I guess we could probably just show it, but this is where the vacuum actuator.
Yep. So that's the factory actuators. And as you can see, there's the smaller diameter tube with the tips on the inside that are always running. And that's the quieter pathway. As the pipes come into the muffler, they want to exit out immediately here.
Yeah.
But you block that path and it forces it through the inner chambers of the muffler, which muffles it further and comes out the middle only. So the great part about our system is we do retain that functionality, but in all of the cases, we don't actually reduce the diameter on any pathway. So even on the quiet mode, it's receiving a true dual, true 3-inch all the way through to the tips.
Nice. That's cool. I don't know if you guys ever knew that, but on the 392, you have the ability to quiet the exhaust if you're driving through a neighborhood, or at 4 in the morning, you don't want to wake all your neighbors up. Me personally, you got to let that thing breathe any time of the day. But that's where this actuator comes in, as Rich was saying, comes out right here, as opposed to both if you actually have the sport mode off. All right, cool. All right, well, let's check out the system.
Yep. So what we've got starting off with is, again, 3-inch, and you can see we make the reduction to go down to the factory size.
Yeah.
But we have that mating point, which is slightly reduced. And then we go to a true 3-inch, and we maintain it all the way through. We go back to one of our true X's, so we get a good crossover, and we get that scavenging effect.
Yep.
We have our NDT resonators next to our mufflers, which means V8 sound, no V8 drone.
Yep.
Straight through exhaust without that drone sound. So we've tuned that, and if you look at this very carefully...
I mean, this is like the secret sauce right here.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's also, if you were to take this cross-section and look at what we've done with the Charger and the Challenger, it's the very same muffler because it's the very same motor, and you want the same sound.
Yeah.
So this really kind of livens it up and gives you that character that you expect from really the highest performance motors on the market.
Well, and performance-wise, what is this doing as far as horsepower, just general throttle, acceleration? Are you feeling it when we put this on?
This is a pretty big change. We are changing everything to a true dual, so we are also freeing up the flow under the restricted position. So everything you feel will be, the first thing will be throttle response. As far as power at the wheels, we are seeing it's a very high horsepower motor. Obviously, you're looking at 400 plus horsepower. And when you're looking at that kind of power, we're seeing anywhere between 12 and 14 horsepower. And we've tested these on a couple different vehicles, and the wheel size does vary on kind of the output because it's parasitic. But 12 and 14 horsepower, but the punch is 18 foot-pounds of torque.
Wow.
So that torque is what you're going to feel. That gives you that acceleration kind of, that's what you feel in the seat of your pants.
Even with our last Gladiator that we put MagnaFlow on, and some of our classic cars for resto mods, like, you could tell the difference. Not only the sound, I know it's psychosomatic, but just that acceleration, that immediate like response, and hearing everything, the driving experience just becomes so much better. So
I like to say we complete the driving experience because, you know, you can put all the suspension parts you want on there that does make it faster, enhance the motor, but if you don't make it sound like that race car, you're really missing that final element that gets your heart rate racing. It's kind of like the electric car syndrome, you know. It's an amazingly fast car, but all you hear is tires squeaking, a little engine whir.
Well, unless it's the Dodge where the sound effects come in.
And
I love it. I love that.
It at least gives you that sensation because we expect it as performance people. We want to feel that experience. So even auditory doesn't quite get you the same thing.
No.
As that feel that you get of the harmonic of that V8 pumping away and making all those ponies.
100%. Yeah, that's why we got the 392 for you guys to win. Look at these tips.
Yes, so ultimately, this was something that was a bit more difficult.
Pretty shiny things.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we at least addressed what a lot of the 392 owners wanted, which is they've got this bimodal exhaust, so you notice all the valves are retained. But we wanted to go to something where it still had some great aesthetic appeal. And unlike most of our Jeep systems that are just rugged and made for use, we have a system for that. But this one we wanted to make sure enhanced what the factory offered. Gave you all the same functionality, more power, and again, more aesthetic value.
Yeah, I think it looks beautiful. And one thing that I noticed right away is this is all bolt off, bolt on things. You could do this on your own or take it to a mechanic who could get it dialed. But also comes in one neat little packaging, and that is no small feat for engineering.
We got to make this ship through our shipping shipper, and it's got to get there in one piece without damaging all this. I call it jewelry that opens out of the box. And we do a lot in the packaging stage to make sure that the tips come out the way they do, because it is the part you see most. And while we have raised and lowered the size of we've raised the exhaust system and lowered the size of the muffler, we still have ground clearance that we want to make sure is accounted for. And also, one little nice fact about having another Jeep that I've done some more extensive modifications to, a lot of the original systems out in the market that we saw offered were too wide to put a dual reservoir shock where you have a piggyback or something in the back, because they would actually hit under full articulation. So we narrowed the exhaust system, so it's actually almost 2.5 inches on each side shorter, bringing the tips in, which takes the tips out of the way of all the spray of the tires when you're spinning tires, because guess what? We like to do that too. But it also helps with the articulation and suspension. So again, we're Jeep enthusiasts. We want to make sure that what we do actually still works with most of the stuff on the market, so we like to collaborate.
Yeah, I love that. And if you aren't a fan of the Street Series, you don't want the tips, you just want high output, loud noises. They also have a rock crawler series as well.
If you just imagine, this is the front section, this is what goes over the axle, and instead of having all of this come down, it's literally just 2 turn downs at the frame. So the lowest part will be the frame.
You don't have the ability to quiet it and take it out of sport mode, but you rock crawlers don't give a damn about that anyway. And you just do whatever you want, wherever you want to do it. All right, this is sweet. Enough of the talking. Let's put it on and see how it does.
More importantly, let's hear what it sounds like.
Oh, all right, so we got the old exhaust out compared to MagnaFlow. A couple glaring differences. For starters, the tips are about 2.5 inches closer together on each side, which is great for those aftermarket shocks that we put on, or anything that you're putting on, long travel or whatnot. On here, the muffler is just ginormous, ugly, disgusting. Tips are fine. On the MagnaFlow, obviously you got the black tips. Very sporty, sleek. This does look like jewelry. Very well welded together. I mean, the quality that you expect in the system. And what are some other things that I'm missing difference-wise? Because this just looks more seamless.
That we've taken the primary muffling out of the back section to get more clearance.
Yeah.
Because even though we're putting tips on this vehicle, we still want to make sure that it's got higher clearance than stock. So our primary muffling is done in the front section. And you can see we've gone to larger mufflers than the factory resonator. And we've also added our NDT resonators up front so that we don't have the drone issue. So what they're trying to do in the back, we've moved to the middle. So we've shifted weight to the middle of the vehicle, which is a positive for the Jeep platform. But we've also raised the clearance in the back while still giving it a nice aesthetic.
That's right. I can't wait to hear it. And then, I mean, everything seems like more efficient and effective. I know that takes a lot of time and effort, but
we've done something different with the effect that our bypass is going to, the only way we can make it louder, because this actually enters into a muffler in an expansion chamber, and then when that valve opens, it bypasses out, but there's still some degree of muffling. If you look where we've put it to make sure that we get the most, because our muffler's up front, we actually bypass before it enters the muffler. So when you are getting this open, it is literally the straightest path out with completely bypasses the rear muffler, which is why we have a little more of that very desirable tone when it's in open mode.
All right, so let me see if I follow you correctly on that. So these close off, and when that closes off, all of the air is coming right here. Normally it will split to right there and right there. Instead, it's coming through here and then going out there.
Correct, right.
All right, and that's when it's the not
quieter mode.
Quieter mode.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like it. All right, let's get it on. Get it on. All right, the MagnaFlow exhaust is in. First thing that I notice, this muffler is sitting 2 inches higher at least than the old muffler.
It used to not be, I mean, it would cover part of the pumpkin when you looked at it from behind.
Yeah, and you off-road enthusiasts are going to absolutely love that. No bottoming out, but if you are doing some hardcore rock crawling, we are going to put an Artec skid plate right here, which hugs that exhaust, comes up on the side. And tell me some other things that are going on with this that's different than some competitors and the actual stock exhaust.
So the biggest thing is pushing these inboard. So you'll notice that there's almost, you can see a little residue here from the factory exhaust. That was way out here. And a lot of the people that are building exhaust systems in the aftermarket kind of kept that position and routed the pipes around to fit into that larger muffler that they're kind of mimicking the factory with the small resonator. So we had to completely change our design and put the primary mufflers up front and a secondary one here so we can shrink this down so we can have beautiful shocks in the back that are functional for what we want to do. And they can piggyback remote reservoir and nothing's going to get in the way during articulation. That's a big part of it. But also going inboard this far meant that when you do spray some sand or dirt out from behind you,
we tend to
have some fun.
Send it a little bit.
But all of that means it's not going to damage your brand new black chrome tips. So all of that was done with the consideration for the fact that, you know, this also improves, you know, your clearance. When you're tackling rocks, you're trying to stay on top of them. So your crawl line is going to be right on the tire. So when that big rock you slide off and comes up, it's here, not here. And there's other things lower than that that are going to catch before. So we've really tried to isolate it. But if you're absolutely that guy that's got to go, we make our system that sits even with the frame, gets rid of the rear muffler and the valves, and everything is at the level of the bumper. So we got all the options.
Got it. Love it. It's installed. It's ready to fire up for the first time ever. Let's see how it sounds. Rich, this is awesome.
Should be fun.
It feels like it's way more open. Oh, that's shifting. I remember this last time when we put MagnaFlow on our Jeep Gladiator. And we've had MagnaFlow on some other builds before, but the one thing that I noticed is the acceleration, it feels more open. Obviously, when you open this thing up, you have the pull, you feel like the acceleration, it's definitely different. Plus the whole driving experience, it feels like you're in a race car. We're in a freaking Jeep right now, but with that 6.4 liter HEMI underneath the hood and is able to breathe and really let that exhaust go, I'm telling you, worth every dollar on getting a new exhaust from MagnaFlow. Street Series, fantastic. I would love to try out the rock crawling series as well, but I feel like this rig is so beautiful. We need those black tips and it looks really good. So thumbs up MagnaFlow. Good job. All right, you saw the before, you see the after, you hear the after. Those tones are fantastic. You guys absolutely crushed it with this. Thank you so much. If you want the best exhaust in the business for the 392 and other platforms, go to MagnaFlow.com. And if you want to win this Jeep Wrangler 392 plus a Dewdrop Alpha trailer, just go to Ford4x4.com. Rich, I'm pretty sure that every single vehicle that we have is going to show up here at some point and or have a MagnaFlow exhaust, because that is definitively one of the best tones I've ever heard.
Yeah, we really tried to work on that, and Jeep let us hit it out of the park by putting that wonderful motor
there you go.
The hood, so.
All right, more power. Let's supercharge it. Let's lift it. Let's just keep on going. Bigger, better. I appreciate it, dude.
You got it, man.
Thanks.